Ladies and gentlemen, the golden era is now fully in effect because the regular season is complete. We finished the season in style. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't easy, but we win yet again on the road at Mount St. Vincent. The postseason is here, and we thought there would be no better way than to kick off the postseason in the Skyline tournament for our SJC Long Island Golden Eagles, then talk about him, and of course talk with the legendary in his own right, SJC Long Island Golden Eagle, who's a very, very happy man, a very, very proud man right now. And of course, he was on the court the last time our Golden Eagles were in the postseason back in 2017. That is the legendary brute force Brad Weiss. And my friend, congratulations. What a ride this has been. Listen, at this point, who knows what can happen, but set the tables for us on yet another huge win. Wasn't easy, wasn't pretty, but we find a way yet again.
Yeah, Tom, what a day it was just in general for myself specifically, and not only a great SJC men's basketball win, but my Plainview JFK Hawks varsity team won their first round game today. And also Coach Brendan Fitzpatrick, and a friend of this show, won his final game of the regular season for Cortland that clinched their playoff spot. So a lot of great news here in the world of basketball. But with our SJC Golden Eagles, which we're here tonight to talk about, what another great win today against Mount St. Vincent, a team at Mount St. Vincent that was fighting for, playoff seeding and positioning.
They wound up clinching a playoff spot, even with the loss.
Right. And then, they had something to play for big time. And, yeah, of course, we all know that the Golden Eagles weren't going to tell you they weren't playing this game for anything. They were going to play this game like it was a playoff game and like it meant something to them. So they certainly did that today. And it was against a quality opponent. Certainly, like you said, Tom, it didn't come as easy as, maybe we wanted it to. But ultimately, the playoffs, that's how it is. It's not going to come easy all the time. You're going to have to go through some, tough times, some tough runs. And Mount St. Vincent won the first half, but we came back with a vengeance in the second half, led by my buddy.
Oh, baby. Money, Matt. This guy, let me tell you something. He earned his money, to say the least. And I was thinking about this, and obviously I was speaking to a number of the guys after the game. And again, shout outs to the entire team. And if you aren't following the SJC Long Island Golden Eagles men's basketball team at this point, clearly you need to have your head examined. But in the meantime, you can follow them on Twitter at SJC_MBB and Instagram also SJCMBB. But when I think of great players and I think of great performances, we're speaking about a lot of great players who've played at SJC Long Island. But I really feel like Matt's performance, we're going to look back on this team. We're going to look back on this season. We're going to look back even, I think, in team history. This was one of maybe the most clutch second-half performances from one player.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the fact that it was Matt Hurd. You talk about, his journey the last few years. You talk about when I was there, he was a guy who played a lot, but was, young, still had to learn the college level. Then, Coach McSloy came in last year. And, I was there, but I was injured. And we had guys like Doug Niblock, Frank Basili, and amongst others who played. And Matt Hurd kind of struggled to get minutes last year. And then this year he comes in, he ends up being a starter, but wasn't playing that many minutes, was starting games but wasn't playing that much, to now where he is a starter, he is a big-time performer, and also he's become a finisher for this team.
Absolutely.
Not only was he a finisher for this team today, he was the savior of this team today. He was phenomenal. He could not miss in the second half.
We scored in the second half. We scored 32 points, and I think Matt scored something like 24. There was
24.
I think there was one stretch. I think he scored either 14 points in a row or 14 out of 16 points. And, of course, he ended the game for us, scoring 4 of the last 6 points. And maybe the biggest bucket, because we're up 9, and all of a sudden Mount St. Vincent decides to press, because obviously they were still playing for something. They still had a lot to play for here. But all of a sudden I'm getting nervous, and I'm like, oh, boy, here we go again. And yet who gets that bucket to put us up 3 and I think give us just enough breathing room there? And, of course, it's Matt Hurd.
Oh, yeah. And it's just awesome to see that, too, because, someone like myself as an alumni obviously saw Matt at a young age as a young rookie. And, I talked about it on previous episodes when we talked to SJC where, He was a little, nervous, intimidated at first, and it took him a while.
Are you sure he's nervous now, though?
Oh, hell no, he's not nervous. Nerves? He looked nervous today? Not a chance. I mean, this kid was unbelievable. I mean, he had absolutely no nerves in his mind or his thought process at all. He went out there, and it wasn't just his three-point shooting. Everybody talks about, Matt Hurd's a great three-point shooter. Of course he is. He's always been a great three-point scorer. But he made plays off the dribble. He made 2-point shots when we needed them. He was all over the place for the Golden Eagles today. And, I talked about it on last week's show, last time we did this. Something that goes on the radio with Matt is that everybody says, well, he can score, but he's not that great on defense. He has improved immensely defensively. I mean, he's taken this system that Coach Mike McSloy has put in, and he's mastered his craft and mastered his spot and what he needs to do. And that's why Coach McSloy trusts him. That's why Coach McSloy has seen his improvement. And ultimately, the fact that he's contributed offensively and contributed defensively, like I said, results in more minutes, results in more trust, and also results in being a closer, like I said. And we always talk about, especially me as a coach, you can start the game, but it's always about who's going to finish. And Matt Hurd has proven he's a guy who needs to finish the game now.
Oh, listen, keep him in at this point. And listen, let's just get him the ball because we've established that when he's open for three, we know he can hit that. But again, he also does little things well. He's a great two-way player now. He's established himself as this guy's a great player. We always knew he was a sack leader. We always knew he was a captain, but now he's delivering. I think about the Yeshiva game, how important he was. I think about down the stretch here in these games that we've been able to come through with victories. Even the old Westbury game, I thought Matt was very important. So I really feel like right now he's coming on just like the rest of the team here. And when players who I know we've talked about, and I'm sure that he drives the coaches crazy with some of his play with the ball. But I got to tell you who also won this game for us is Jake Godiello, because Coach Godiello brought it up to me about he was one of the best players in the conference defensively. And I got to tell you something. I was watching this game here. I know Jake with the ball at times, he drives you crazy. But for me, his defense far exceeds what he can do with the ball because he made some big plays throughout the game that kept us in it, kept us in the lead, and ultimately got us that W.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you said, listen, the turnovers and sometimes the last days with the ball. Listen, he's a rookie. It's his first year. He's still learning. But the thing with Jake Godiello, obviously, is I feel like he's caught fire at the right time. He's been consistent all year long with his play. That's why he's earned his minutes. But as of late, he's been shooting the ball really well. He's been doing well offensively, not only scoring, but making plays for his teammates, just being in the right spots, just running the offense efficiently. I mean, he's been doing a lot good for this team. And like we said, and like you said, Tom, again, another guy who should be getting more credit for his defense. I mean,
his defense today, I got to tell you, his defense came through for us because that was the game that we really struggled offensively. I mean, make no mistake that we struggled offensively, but at the end of the day, which allowed us to get back in the lead and take control for most of the second half until Mount St. Vincent decided to press, was our defense because there was a stretch over 8.5 minutes that Mount St. Vincent did not score a bucket. Jake was a big part of that. I mean, we got a lot of big stops throughout that game, and I think of Jake being on the court with those plays, whether it was through a trap, whether it was through a steal or forcing a turnover on their end, Jake played a huge part in all that.
Absolutely, 100%. And, throughout the season, Tom, I mean, especially as a guy who's in his first season, I mean, there's a lot of experienced guards who have had a lot of success in the Skyline that are still playing in the Skyline. And, you'd think a guy like Godiello, who's in his first year, who's still learning, would get a little bit, intimidated or anything like that, just like we talked about Matt Hurd when he was in his career as a young player. Jake, not at all. I mean, he's up on people. He's intense. He's not scared of nobody. He's definitely been a guy from day one that you could just tell was ready for this level. Like, you felt like he was ready from the start. And he ultimately has done that. He's been a great point guard of this team, learning from guys like Gordon. We talked about this in the past.
I think Gordon has been one of our – I think without Gordon, I really think because he's had experience, he's won – just think about, I know, again, you're going to look at the stats and say, he's averaging whatever in his numbers, but I'm telling you, you know this because you played at SJC. You've had success. Gordon is worth so much more because not only is he helping tutoring the likes of a Jake Godiello, he's also helping a guy like Tom Bell, our very good friend Tom Bell. He's helping those guys get that experience. So when they take over, when Gordon graduates here, whenever we win, ultimately when we win the NCAA tournament, so that's going to be a while from now. But the fact of the matter is, whenever Gordon graduates and leaves the team, those guys, and especially a guy like Jake, is going to be ready.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to give a shout out to Tom Bell because he's my latest Instagram follower. So thank you.
That makes two of us. I think Tom Bell, I think he's become a fan of ours, apparently. That's kind of the word from Tom Bell.
That's right. Shout out to Tom Bell. But certainly, yeah, I mean, Gordon, that was part of his role this season. Obviously, his play on the court and what he does for us on the court was huge. But part of his role was to be a leader, a guy with experience who's played 3 to 4 years of college basketball before this season coming to SJC. So his experience, right? And I just said that about other Skyline guards, where there's a lot of guys who have been in the Skyline who have a lot more experience than a lot of our younger players.
It is a tough conference this year. There's a lot of good teams. This is not like playing in. Yep.
But ultimately, I mean, all those experienced guards throughout the Skyline, it's been a major help to have a guy like Gordon, mentoring so many of these young players. And really, accelerating their level of play so fast. I mean, it's not easy. Trust me. I remember being a freshman. I remember being on that team that made the playoffs. It took me a while to, get to this level that some of these guys are at. I mean, we talk about guys like Alex Tabata. I mean, the way he's playing, I wasn't even close. I mean,
it took you a couple years. Yeah, it took you about, I'd say,
for most players, especially coming from high school, and especially these guys, I mean, they had to go through COVID and all these different things, and they are playing at this high of a level. I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is. That's what makes this season so special, is that these young players have really accelerated to becoming great players in the Skyline so fast. And it's not only a testament, right, to the coaching staff is already doing an amazing job, but the leadership. And we like guys like Gordon. We'll continue to say it. The guys like Kevin, who's older than me at this point. So,
he's older than everybody.
So he knows I'm always going to pick on him with his age, but ultimately his experience and his wisdom is humongous for this team.
Well, Kevin's been around so long that he was probably a freshman when Billy Heenan was still on the court.
Oh God, we love you, Kevin. We love you. All right, but ultimately, you're just the guy who, is the old folk on the team.
There was a player on Brooklyn College a couple of years ago, and I spoke with him after the games when they were playing John Jay, because obviously everybody was like, cover John Jay, and that guy was like 27. So, I mean, there are quirks. It happens.
Yeah, but experience is very important. And the fact that we have Gordon, the fact that we have Kevin, the fact that we have Matt Hurd, who's gone through, some good times, some of the doom days of St. Joe's, and then now is getting prosperity. So shout out to Matt. You see these guys. I mean, you even see Coach Godiello posting guys working before practice.
You saw Gordon out there. You saw Ryan McNeely out there. I mean, you see these guys at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're at Danzy. I mean, it's on a Friday. You think Friday, listen, we got everything clinched. We don't need to do anything. No, these guys are still out there working. I mean, these guys, they're out there, and they're not taking anything for granted. They realize what's in front of them. They're not resting on their laurels. They want to win a championship. This is not about just, okay, we had a winning season, we beat Yeshiva. No, they're looking for blood in the water. They smell it, and it's right there. And you feel like this team right now, this is why, to me, they're dangerous, because they're peaking at the right time. They've won 9 of the last 10. They've won 15 of the last 20 games. And you think about all these games they've played in, they really haven't been blown out in any game. Every game they've been in, even the ones they lost. You think about the Manhattanville game. There's going to be a lot of guys who are going to have that game on their minds now that we're playing in Manhattanville. I think about even the 2 games we played at Farmingdale. I mean, we have really, and you think about our season right now, the way this team is playing, I wouldn't want any part of SJC Long Island.
I don't think anyone wants a part of them right now. I mean, they're a team, like you said, Tom. They've competed with everybody. I don't think they've walked out of a game thinking that they couldn't have won the game. Like every game they walked out, whether they won or lost, thinking that, we could have done this much better. Like, if they won by 10, they probably think, we could have won by 20. And I
heard Godiello tell me, and I watched the game, and we win by 16 or 17. He goes, no, listen, I'm telling you, we needed to play better. No, these guys are perfectionists. It's not just a matter. They want to do better.
And listen, that's a good thing. That's really a good thing, especially from a younger team. I mean, a younger team, easily just be satisfied with some of the small things that go right, or some of the things that, maybe they've implemented in practice and it looks good. No, they're thinking so much larger and bigger than that. And that's what's been huge for this team. It's been obvious, since we've been watching them all season long and through the winning streak. It's been obvious that this team is not just thinking about, oh, well, what can we do to do this? They believe in themselves so much that they feel, right, that they have gotten to this level and they continue to push to go further and further. They believe that the level that they're at is just, there's more to come.
And why shouldn't they? Listen, why shouldn't they? Because take a step back, right? Leave aside that we're SJC fans. We're homers. You played there. Let's take a step back. They beat Baruch on the road, and Baruch until recently was the best team in the CUNY. They beat Yeshiva, which just beat the undefeated St. Joe's, Connecticut, which was in the top 5 in the country, right? They've went toe-to-toe with Manhattanville on the road. They went toe-to-toe with Farmingdale, which has won 10 games, and they won the Skyline Conference in the regular season. Look at what they did today in a tough environment against a good Mount St. Vincent's team. This was not a pushover team. This was a team that had a lot to play for. So if you look at this team as a whole, why shouldn't they believe that they can win? Because looking at this team and look at how they've played this year, I mean, look at their schedule. Look at their quality wins. This isn't a team that just beat community college teams. This is a team that's got legitimately good wins against good programs, and their losses were close games against very, very, very good programs that are just as hot as we are right now.
Absolutely. That's why, like you said, there's nothing to be upset with. I mean, they put themselves in such a great situation that at this point, they're playing with nothing to lose. They're playing like a team that believes that they can win, not only a Skyline, but go further and further. So I'm really excited, Tom, to see what they can do in the playoffs, because they've proven to me and they've proven to everybody that's watched them that they are a team to be reckoned with, like you said. I mean, they're not just the SJC Golden Eagles of my time. They're now a team that we could say, while we see, and you talked about it, Tom, the John Matejko days where they were winning every single year. We can see
people came out in hundreds. You see what Yeshiva has right now? We had that at the Danzy Center, where people came out, hundreds of people came out to see Chris Jimenez and Trey Black and Olivier Laurent and certainly Dave Ackery when he was here, and Chris Niblock, of course, Doug's brother, and all those players from those teams where people would line up, and we were nationally ranked at one time. This is the best. We don't have to worry about the bad joke about the bad years with your run. No, this is honestly, and I know we went to the championship game in 2015 with Coach Spann the first year, and Billy Heenan was a part of that. But if you look at it right now, this is the best regular season we've had since John Matejko was here. And that speaks, again, to the credit of the coaching staff and to the players, because, yes, we have veterans, but this is by and large a young team. Nobody saw this. 15-8, 11-5 in the Skyline. We knew the coaches and players believed it. We knew we had a chance with this team. But right now, it's going to go in the record books. Other than when John Matejko was here, this was the best regular season we've ever had here at SJC. The best one.
Absolutely. Like you said, and we're going to continue to say it, the fact that they did this with having such a young team, right, having a coach and Coach McSloy in his second season with the team, and really his first season with many of these players, I mean, it's beyond impressive. I mean, it's really beyond impressive to see this team not only win, but consistently win, like put together win after win after win. And listen, the one thing I know from my experience in the Skyline is that it's not easy. Every team is different. Like every team has a different, game plan, different way they play, different strengths, and they found a way to be consistent through all these different obstacles that they've had to get over. And, there's a lot of, like we said, this is a competitive conference. You could argue that
a lot of good teams here.
Yeah, and we could argue that a few teams have fallen off, but that's not really what's happened. I think it's more that the SJC Golden Eagles have came up. And I
think exactly the same, because I think now it's a product of the fact that, listen, there were 5 teams in this conference that won 10 games or more. So take a step back. I mean, there are certain conferences that we cover here, and listen, realistically, there's 2 teams, maybe 3, right? That would be good. In this conference, the records speak for themselves. There's 5 teams that won 10-plus games or more in this conference. This is a tough conference. I mean, look at what we did to Merchant Marine at the Danty Center. I mean, that was arguably, maybe other than the Yeshiva win, one of the best wins the program has had because of how well we played them. I mean, you look at the wins. Old Westbury's been a rival for us. Look at how we handled them. Look at Purchase. Look at Sarah Lawrence. I mean, those are always places tough to play. So even though some of those teams might be down, at the end of the day, you still have to go and win in these environments, and this team has a winning record on the road. We're going to be on the road. That's a huge part here, the brute force. This team has a winning record on the road. We're going to be on the road. We had a lot of home games early on in the year, but now in the postseason, we are going to be on the road, and this team has shown that it can win. We can win anywhere we play.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, it's a great point that you talk about the road. I mean, it doesn't get much harder than one of the top teams in the country that they just beat on the road. I mean, the fact that they have that win, I mean, they should be ultra excited to play, you know, in these environments, because it doesn't get much crazier and much harder than in Yeshiva, where they just won. So, yeah, listen, Manhattanville, you know, playing there before, it's a small little gym, kind of similar to, you know, Yeshiva, except it is a gym, and then the stands are kind of above the wall. It's very funky. It's a funky gym.
It's a little weird. It's a little weird on the stream. I have to say, you've played there. I mean, I've watched it obviously online. It's a weird environment there. It's a very weird gym.
Yeah, it's definitely. And listen, the walls are like right on the baseline. There's nowhere. Like if you're going out of bounds, you're running through the wall. Basically.
You know that reminds me of when I was in junior high school. We had intramurals gym, and like the gym when the stands would like be like tushed up together. That's what it almost reminds me of. Just very retro, very like old school, like Hoosiers, like in a sense. Just a very old school feel that place has.
Yeah, no, for sure. So listen, it's gonna be a fun environment. You know, we all know that, you know, they're probably gonna get a nice fan base to that game. But I think our Golden Eagles are more than prepared to be ready for that environment. And, you know, we talked about it a little bit earlier. We'll get to it a little bit later, that there's no reason why they should think that they just went into Manhattanville a couple weeks ago and were winning for almost the entire game until the end. So there's really no reason, right, to be like, you know, this team's a higher seed. We feel like we're right there with them. I don't think we feel that because teams are higher seed that they're.
I feel like also when you're in the postseason, and I was thinking about this before we came on the stream, these one-game playoffs, I mean, you really don't go into and say, oh, well, they beat us twice, or, oh, they beat us, because at the end of the day, and also look at the way we've played this year, especially in the Skyline Conference. Nothing tells me, oh, well, we can't win. I mean, listen, because anything can happen here in these tournaments. I mean, these are basically one-game round robins. I mean, so at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think anybody in that locker room feels like that they can't win and they aren't the favorites. I mean, because listen, any given Sunday, any given day, I mean, look at what Farmingdale did to Yeshiva in their building. Look at what we did to Yeshiva. I mean, so at the end of the day, you can win. And I think that these guys right now, because they're peaking at the right time, they're not backing into the postseason. I mean, look at the win they had today. I mean, Mount St. Vincent's had a lot on the line. I mean, this was a game for us. Yes, we were locked in our spot. We weren't going anywhere. We weren't getting a home playoff game. But you know what? This was a game that still meant something. And it was a big win also because you don't want to lose that momentum going into the postseason. I never forget covering the John Jay team a couple years ago that won the CUNY in the regular season. Doug Levy gets hurt. And again, the Hunter game, and he wasn't the same player afterwards. And they lost that team feel that they had, and they came back and they in the semifinals, and Brooklyn beat them. So I mean, you don't want to lose that momentum. You don't want to take your foot off the pedal. And I think that's why this was a huge win today.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I like the fact that you use the word momentum. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Momentum is very important in the game, in any sport, basically. Momentum is huge. But it doesn't get much better than having momentum going into the playoffs. Whether you're the 1 seed, you're the 8 seed, you're the 5 seed. Like, if you have momentum, you are definitely something to be reckoned with no matter what seed you are. So the SJC Golden Eagles, like I said, you know, they have momentum. You know, they have won some great games here. They have finished the season off really strong. And you can just see, like, just from the beginning of the season to now, how much this team's matured, how much better this team's got.
And they're totally a different team, and we're talking all things related to our SJC Line Golden Eagles men's basketball team. And, of course, the boys will be in the Skyline tournament playoffs for the first time since 2017, with, of course, the brute force Brad Weiss was a player there. And, of course, they will be playing in Manhattanville. It'll be 8 p.m., so you can catch that on the Manhattanville Athletics webpage. So we will certainly be talking, I'm sure, a lot about that after the game as well. And, of course, you can follow the Golden Eagles men's basketball team, again, on Instagram at SJCMBB, Twitter at SJC_MBB. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Of course, alongside me is the great brute force Brad Weiss, who in 2018-19 season had one of the best seasons in the school's history from this position. Of course, 3rd in the Skyline Conference in block shots that year, one of the best rebounders also in the conference that year, 13th in rebounds. So it was a huge year for him. You can follow him also on Instagram, BWeiss20, Twitter, Brad Weiss 20. Also follow him on Snapchat because there are some people that still use Snapchat. But I also think, Brad, that this was a big win because you think about the fact that Alec Tabata and Spencer Malloy have been our two best players offensively this year. And this wasn't one of their more memorable games. So the fact that you win a game like you did today, this afternoon, with your two best players statistically, offensively, that would be like if you had Frank and Doug and you guys won with Frank and Doug not playing well. Same thing here today with Alec and Spencer, who scored, I think, 18 points combined, and we still found a way to win. That's huge. It speaks to the volume of the character of this team.
Absolutely. And the one word that automatically comes to my mind is depth. When you're in the playoffs, you need depth because, listen, and things totally happen in the playoffs where Spencer gets in foul trouble in the first half. Well, who's coming in? Because, like you said, that's one of your leading scorers. Alec Tabata, gets a few fouls as well. Like, who's going to come in and provide the spark? And that, starts with having depth. And this team, the one thing that we've been saying, and one of the big reasons why this team has had so much success is because you don't lose a lot when you go to the bench. You got guys like we talked about Anthony Farafina and how much he's been great behind.
Hey, big Ferry. He is like a ferry out there on the court. He literally is like a ferry.
Oh, yeah. He's a big man. And, we talked about Tom Bell earlier. We talked about, of course.
I feel like Tom Bell is one of those unsung heroes to the team because when he's in there, he provides a lot, bringing the ball up the court, plays good defense, tough guy to go up against. I mean, he's a guy that you're putting on your other players and some of those good guards in the Skyline Conference. And Tom Bell is one of those unsung heroes. And Coach Godiello had pointed out that with us when we had him on here before the break. So, I mean, Tom Bell is another one of those unsung heroes. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And of course, I have to mention him because he's been one of the most clutch players for us, Ryan McNeely.
Absolutely.
Coming off that bench has been huge. So, the fact that we have depth, and, I haven't even mentioned other names that I should have, it's just, it says how much better this team has gotten because it's not just about the starting five. It's about the guys coming off the bench that you got to worry about. It's about the guys, who have been competing in practice every day. And you know what? The one thing, depth gets built by having great practices and getting guys competing against each other every single day. And I think the fact that, the guy at the end of the like a guy like Nick Nemekis, right? And I was talking.
Huge shout out to Nick Nemekis. We love Nick Nemekis.
Yeah, a guy like Nick Nemekis. I mean, Coach McSloy told me, he's been playing fantastic all year long. But and the one thing that helps the team is that he's playing so well, he's pushing everybody else to be better. And whether he's getting minutes or not, you see him as one of the best cheerleaders on the bench. With guys like Rashard Lawson, amongst others. Mark Roberts.
Shout out to Rashard Lawson. Another one of our big supporters. Rashard is always speaking with us. Huge shout out to Rashard Lawson.
Yeah, I mean, I could go down the list. But the fact that this depth has been built with this young team has been huge. And I think that's something that's going to play to their advantage over other teams. Because you look at, like a game like Yeshiva where, their starting five is but their depth kind of struggled against us. And our depth was the reason why we won that game.
And it's funny you said that because I was watching Yeshiva's game on Thursday. And you know what the Yeshiva play-by-play team actually talked about? The fact that the Maccabees needed to adjust upon their depth. And the reason they won against St. Joe's, Connecticut was because they certainly adjusted from playing us. And all of a sudden, they had guys like Jordan Armstrong have one of the best games he had because they needed it. Because when you have Terrell and Leifer and everybody else is struggling, even Leifer struggled. So at the end of the day, that depth is what I think is really going to keep us in all these games. And I think we're going to win the Skyline tournament. I really do because I think we have the depth. And I think, was it Coach McSloy that said to you Tuesday when you were there with the team and such watching the game that practices are there is something like he's never seen before? I mean, that's coming from Coach McSloy. I mean, that's a big statement there.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been proud of how practice is going. And listen, he admitted too, Tom, that, listen, as a young team, there's been some days in practice where they're like, oh, God. Like, listen, it's a young team. They're going to have a day or two that are pretty bad or that just, struggle or it just doesn't click that day. Trust me, I've been in practice. And when you have so many practices, you're not going to be perfect every day. There's going to be
these guys are getting up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Listen, I mean, you're getting up that early, and you got to go to class, you got to go to work, and you're going to do a 2-hour practice. I mean, these aren't the NBA players. I mean, these guys have lives afterwards. They got girlfriends also. They got family. I mean, listen, it's not easy just to go out and do what these guys are doing. It's really not.
Oh, absolutely. And, you mentioned all those other things, and obviously you mentioned school. I mean, school is a big toll. Trust me, it's a lot. But ultimately, like I said, the fact that they come to practice, they compete, they get each other better. You talk about, let's just start with the big man position. I mean, you got Spencer, you got Anthony Farafina, you got Timmy Hurd, you got Alec, all these guys are going at each other every day in practice. And that's only helping them. Like, they're competing against themselves, which is actually helping them against other teams because these guys are great players going against each other.
No question. I mean, listen, Timmy Hurt was the starting player at the beginning of the season. Do you remember at the beginning of the season when we spoke, we said Timmy Hurt was going to be in the rotation. We didn't know Alec Tabata was going to be basically he forced himself, and he arguably, listen, he and Spence could maybe share the Skyline Conference Rookie of the Year. I mean, we didn't know that. We thought this was going to be Timmy Hurt's team, but Timmy comes down with an injury. It leaves the opening for Alec Tabata, and Alex run with it ever since.
Oh, absolutely. And the one thing, listen, I've been a starter for a long time, and it's easy to get down on yourself, like when you are a starter and then you lose your role a little bit. But Timmy Hurd has not done that at all. I mean, he's been huge off that bench. I mean, he's been, we've been talking about Tim all year long. The fact that he's contributed, the fact that he's been physical, one of those guys who's rebounded the ball really well for us. That's defended, blocking shots, doing everything that we need off that bench. And I'll even go now since I have it right next to me, Tom. The last time we played Manhattanville, Timmy Hurd in 19 minutes off the bench had 16 points. So,
I remember that.
I mean, he can be a guy who plays a big impact on Tuesday against Manhattanville off that bench. And that's something, like I said, where it's not just about the starting five. It's not just about, our, top whatever players. It's about the fact that we have 5 great starters and we have a lot of great players off the bench. And ultimately, you never know which one's going to go off each game because there's so many great players. That's what makes SJC so hard to play is that you just don't know who's going to have it because they got so many great players.
Absolutely. And I think that what you said, I couldn't agree with you more because when I think about our bench, Ryan McNeely is a guy that at times is arguably our best 6th man. Timmy Hurt has had some big games. The Yeshiva game, he was also huge. Then you have Anthony Farafina, who at times, I mean, he's had some really, really big games. And I was speaking with him, another guy that you might not look at the stat sheet and say, oh, it's eye-popping compared to some of our other rookies. But when he's in there, maybe that 5 or 6 minute stretch Coach McSloy gives him, maybe to give Spencer a breather or Spencer's in foul trouble, he really plays an important role. So I look at the bench of this team and guys can step in and fill roles and you don't feel like, oh, okay, they're weak or they're down. No, because Farafino can come in there and play an important role. Timmy Hurt was a starter earlier in the year. You think about Ryan McNeely. Ryan McNeely's won us some games. I mean, Ryan McNeely legitimately, I look at that Yeshiva game. He might have won us that game. I mean, you think about him in the old Westbury game. He was huge. I mean, he's had some really, really big games. So I really feel like the bench of this team is what's gonna propel us to winning on Tuesday. And the other thing I really think that's changed about this team, and this was something we kind of talked about, I think the first time Coach Godiello came on, and then certainly the second time when they started to figure out the identity of this team is, if you remember the first half of the season, those first 6 or 7 games, this team struggled defensively. Now I look at this team and arguably, and I'll probably say it, and I'm going to definitely go on the record, I have no problem saying this, I think right now this is the best team defensively in the Skyline Conference. Think about where we were defensively, where we played Hunter and gave up 100-plus points. Yeshiva, we gave up, I think, close to 100. Some other games earlier in the year, York was on the team again. I realize they're explosive teams. They can score. But look at what we did to Merchant Marine. Look at what we did to Old Westbury. Look at what we did today to Mount St. Vincent. Look at what we did to Farmingdale. Farmingdale struggled to get 70 on us. Look at Yeshiva. Yeshiva got a bunch of points late. I mean, this team, to me, defensively right now, why I think we're going to win, because we all know that old adage, defense wins championships, and I think we have the best defense right now in the Skyline Conference.
Yeah, I mean, the defense has improved tremendously. I mean, I remember coming on this show, like you said, Tom, a long time ago, and basically saying one of the reasons why I thought this was going to be, a season where we'd have to learn is because I think we need to get better on defense. I saw the offensive talent, but I was wondering how we were going to play defensively. But ultimately, this team has put it into another gear on defense. And obviously that credit goes to the players, but also goes to the coaches. I mean, Coach McSloy, and you mentioned the word identity. they found their identity. They found the defense that worked for the team, found what, would the team would have success in. You could easily get, a little bit selfish in your own ways. But Coach McSloy, looked at, the roster, looked at what was working, and ultimately made adjustments. And the defense that they played all season long has been adjusted to the teams that they're playing, obviously, but ultimately to the team identity themselves, like how they play defense individually. Are they the best man-to-man team? No, but they've done a tremendous job, right, with their zone looks, with the way that they've played. They've had to do different things, but they've perfected every single one of them. So ultimately, Tom, this team, right, like I said, they're young, right? They're hungry, they're passionate, but they've really taken what the coaching staff has put in and perfected it. And the defense, right, like you said, we talk about weak defenders like Matt Hurd in the past. He's become a better defender. We talk about Kevin O'Halloran when he's came in the game. Everybody's like, oh, he could shoot, but he can't play defense. No,
another thing. Listen, O'Halloran wouldn't be in there if he couldn't defend. I mean,
exactly.
if he could not defend, we love him shooting and shoot. Obviously, always shout out to Kevin O'Halloran. But if he couldn't defense, he couldn't guard his man, he wouldn't be in there. He would not be in there.
Absolutely. And listen, like I said, they've adjusted to the system that's been put in place. And the system that's been put in place has been very successful. And ultimately, like I said, if you perfect something, you work on it every single day in practice, you can put up these results. And you said it, Tom Rice. I mean, some of these great teams that we played, we've held to low point totals, where earlier in the season we were letting up hundreds of points.
It's night and day. I mean, listen, Merchant Marine, what'd they score? Like 12 points in the second half against us? I mean, there's even today, Mount St. Vincent, 8+ minutes before they scored their first basket in the second half. Even Yeshiva, look at the job that we did on their star players. We basically took them out of the game. I mean, if you go up, even Old Westbury struggled. I mean, they got hot in the second half and it became a different game, but that was such a misleading score. I mean, you could go up and down the line here in the second half in all these different games. And that's why, again, defense wins championships, and this team is playing hot here at the right time. Let me ask you this question here. Let me ask you a couple more before we have closing thoughts here. Obviously, a huge shout out to the entire team on what a special season this was and a special win here. How sweet it was. 15-8, one of the best regular seasons we've had here in a long time. It's arguably the best regular season we've had here outside the John Matejko years. Of course, the great Coach Matejko, the all-time leader in wins in the school's history, and that great run we had with all those 20-win years and ECAC appearances, NCAAs being ranked. This is the best one we've had. Outside of that, statistically, it is a fact. But Tuesday, Manhattanville, we played them not too long ago. We know we can beat them. Very tough game. Kind of fell short there the last 4 or 5 minutes of that game. But they're a team that doesn't have a Ryan Terrell, but they've got like 8 or 9 guys that can score the ball, which is certainly a different way to strategize. But don't give it away for us. And as I always tell our coaches, don't give it away for us on the strategy so Manhattanville hears it. But give us some of the keys that we need to expect for our Golden Eagles to be able to walk away with the first of 3 wins that we need on Tuesday.
Yeah, so, Manhattanville kind of reminds me a little bit of ourselves in a way. Like you said, they don't have a star player, but they have a lot of great players. And the one thing that I think, is going to be a big key, because Manhattanville is traditionally known for this, is that they're just a really tough physical team. They're very physical. They're tough. They're rough riders. It's going to be the first thing that I want to say about this game is that it's going to be about who is the tougher and more physical team. And that's going to have to be our Golden Eagles. And I think it was for most of that game, but I think Manhattanville down the stretch kind of won that battle, and that's what won them the game. You talk about things like 50-50 balls in the playoffs. Those mean a ton.
A lot of those today, a lot of 50-50 balls today. That felt like a playoff game today. You got to win those. A lot of those jump balls, a lot of those nasty jump balls. Or remember how much they pressed the last 3 minutes. I'm expecting we're going to see a lot of that for sure on Tuesday.
Absolutely. So I think, things like I said, 50-50 balls, are we going to win that margin? Are we going to win the rebounding margin? Because this is a team in Manhattanville that maybe isn't the biggest, tallest team. But, besides, Farafina and a few other, we are not tall, but we're physical. So are we going to win the rebounding margin? That's going to be key as well to us having success against Manhattanville. So, and then obviously, we could go about defense. We just talked about that. Who's going to, make the other team take more tough shots? Because offensively, I'm very confident in our ability to run our stuff run our plays, get the ball to Spencer, get the ball to Alec, move the ball around the perimeter, get our shooters going. I think we'll do that. But defensively, right, are we going to get enough stops? Are we going to key in on their guys? We now know who they are because we played them already. I know Coach McSloy is going to do a great job scouting this team.
Oh, I think there's going to be a lot of the guys who are going to be watching that replay of that last game. What's right now, 10:28. They're going to be watching that all tomorrow, all Monday, because it's President's Day, so they're all going to have off from school. They're going to be watching the tape from that game probably at least 5 and 6 times over. There's no question about that.
So, for me, Tom, it's going to be, and especially in the playoffs, it's going to be who's going to win the rebounding margin. Who is going to turn the ball over less? Because I think turnovers, right, is going to be important in this game. We talked about momentum, right? If we turn the ball over a couple times and they score, that's momentum for them. And I think, things like taking charges, could help us get some momentum in this game. And then ultimately, like I said, 50-50 balls. Who's going to get them? Right?
I think those are the ones that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but they were so important today. Those are going to be even more crucial in a playoff game.
100%. So I think those few things are things to watch. Listen, like I said, I think this team, when it comes to St. Joe's, we don't know who is going to have a great game. I think we're going to have a great effort as a team, where I think we're going to be very balanced. I think that's going to be very important, balanced scoring, getting guys going. But I think it's going to start on the defensive end. It's going to start with rebounding, especially on the defensive side. And I think the last thing, and I said it to start, is going to be who's going to be the more tougher and physical team. And ultimately, if our Golden Eagles are that for a full game, because I really do think, Tom, that they were for, most of the game, but not the whole game. So we need it for the entire game if we're going to win a playoff game, because that's what it takes in the playoffs.
Oh, and you know it because you were there the last time we were in the postseason, and I think that's probably what Coach McSloy, Coach Mantesta, Coach Heen, and certainly Coach Godiello were going to say, because we have definitely at times gotten off to really, really fast starts, and then we've kind of had these lulls, and that's kind of expected at this level because teams do catch up, and we're a young team. So I think at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head on all of those things, because I think in order for us to be able to get that much-needed W and to continue our season, I think we're going to need a lot of those things. And I just think for me, it's going to be also, again, the first, I would say, 6 or 7 minutes are going to be so important, because you don't want to get down in an environment like Manhattanville down 6, 7, 8 points. You can come back, but you don't want to give them that momentum. So I think, again, a lot to talk about here. Always excited to speak SJC on Golden Eagles basketball. Obviously, looking forward to recapping it, hopefully Tuesday night. And something tells me also, regardless of the outcome, and again, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this, but I think that this team is still going to be in the postseason regardless, because you win 15 games, and I think at the very least we're going to be in the ECAC. I don't want to, again, shoot my load here, but at the way this team is played, this is not an abnormal Skyline conference. This is a Skyline conference that was very, very difficult this year. 5 teams all could win the Skyline. All 5 of us that have won 10 games, all of us could most certainly win this tournament, and they're all deserving of postseason play. But those are things I'm sure we'll settle out again later in the week. But I want to ask you this question as an alumni. I know I spoke about it with you last week, but I'm sure you're getting a lot of texts, a lot of calls from former teammates, alumni that are friends of the show, and you got to be really, really proud right now, because I see the gear. We got the gear on, but 15 wins. SJC Long Island, we talked about it statistically. Our best regular season in the school's history outside of Matejko. This is a big, big deal. We have huge wins in environments we never won in. I mean, you got to be real proud, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of messages left and right from your old teammates and alumni from the school.
Absolutely. And listen, yeah, of course, I'm very proud. And listen, I'll start by making fun of myself a little bit. You talked about 15 wins, Tom Bryce, this season. I'm not sure if we won 15 games in 3 seasons.
Matt Hurt and I were speaking about that a little while ago, so we're going to plead the 5th on that.
Yeah, so, listen, I'm just saying that to even more emphasize how big of an accomplishment this is. I mean, to be 15-8, to have the success we had in the Skyline, it's been a while since we did that. And ultimately, like I said, as an alumni, as someone who still represents at the school that has their poster there and still proudly wears the gear, as you could see, I'm just extremely proud. And, to have gotten to, get to meet the guys, speak to the guys, see what the guys are all about, and obviously how proud I am of Coach McSloy and Coach Mantesta, Coach Billy Heenan, who obviously is not only an assistant coach right now, but also was a mentor to me when I came to SJC, and Coach Jason Godiello, who was a guy who I didn't know that well, but
he's coming from CCNY, so he's going to definitely appreciate it because CCNY wasn't winning 15 games anytime soon. So Coach Godiello, I think of all the coaches on staff, and I'm going to say if I get in trouble for it, so be it, but he's going to appreciate this, I'm sure, more than the other coaches on the staff because of where he just came from.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, one thing that Coach McSloy made clear to me was how important Coach Godiello and Coach Heenan have been to the addition of Coach Mantesta as well. It's been a very good and cohesive staff that has led the way to this success. So shout out to them, but the team has obviously been great. You see their camaraderie, you see their chemistry, you see what they're doing on and off the court. And it's inspiring as an alumni to see all this success. And one of the things that, I was really proud of as a coach this year with my JV team was that they said to me that one of the best things about this season was how we made friendships, how we made bonds, how we came together, right? That was important. That was one of the biggest things they took out of the season. And this team has made that obvious and very clear. And I know from being an alumni, from being in winning situations before, that that's what it takes to have a great team, and that's what it takes to have a great program. And ultimately, that's what has been built at SJC. I'm extremely proud to see it, and I can't wait to see it for much longer. But ultimately, we are focused on this season. The regular season was a major success, but these Golden Eagles, the regular season's gone. Now it's one game at a time once again. But now, you one game, you don't win, you're out. So everything is on the line now. And I know for a fact, as a proud alumni, that these guys are going to get after it the next few days of practice, be prepared for this game, and give it their best shot and make us proud on Tuesday night.
They sure are. And again, the golden era is definitely in full effect. And shout out to all the players, all the team. Congratulations to them so far on a historic season. And what a job all of them did. I mean, you can also tell before we get out of here that these guys all are friends off the court. They're all close. Sometimes, and you know this from playing, and I cover a number of different teams, you can tell when certain players and certain teams are close. But with these guys, you can tell whether it's Mark Roberts Jr., your old teammate, or Nick Nemekis, or Tom Bell, Basir Hoyt. Everybody on this team, up and down to Spence and Alec and the Hurt brothers, they're all close with each other. There's no friction. That's important in a winning environment. You need to have that cohesiveness. When we won with Matejko in the Matejko years, that was a hallmark of what Coach Matejko, he had an environment where everybody was together. It was Vinny Russo, whether it was, again, Trey and Olivier and all those great players, Chris Jimenez, Matt Weeks, everybody that was a part of that great run from 05 to 12. That's what you did. You just brought in players and you went on runs. And again, listen, nobody thought outside of those who covered the team that this team was going to be going anywhere. I mean, I had Coach McSloy when you were still playing in 2019. It was like, I remember speaking with Coach on the end. I was like, yeah, we're building. We're 5-4 at the time. We got a couple wins, but, listen, let's take baby steps. Now, that was almost 2.5 years ago. Now we're talking about this team with 15 wins. We beat a Yeshiva team that is number 24 in the country. It's going to be in the top 20 after their win tonight. You think about who we've beat also in Baruch. Baruch is one of the best teams in the CUNY Conference. Merchant Marine. You think about all these wins that we've had. So just, again, take a step back to when you were playing, when I had Coach McSloy the first time on the Sports Report to where we are now. So, again, Coach McSloy's got to be Skyline Coach of the Year. I think Alec and Spence have to be co-rookie of the year. If you want to throw Jake in there for triple co-rookie of the year, fine by me. And again, there's a lot we'll get into, I'm sure, after Tuesday's game. But we just wanted to get on the air here and just talk for a little bit and spit out here what this means, what it means to the program and to the players. And we can't thank them enough for their support and friendship. So I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug? And the floor is yours. I know you're a very proud man, a happy man, and we're looking forward to doing this again, hopefully Tuesday night. So far away, Mr. Brute Force.
Absolutely. So you guys can find me on social media at BWeiss on Instagram, at BWeiss20 on Instagram, at BradWeiss20 on Twitter, and searching Bradley Weiss on Facebook. I'm obviously extremely proud of these SJC Golden Eagles, and I'll give one more shout out because I see that he already mentioned me on his story on Instagram. Matt Hurt, 27 big points today. And listen, I know Matt's a great shooter. I know he's a great scorer, but I know for a fact that this is one of his highest scoring games of his life.
Oh, and I talked about that, and I got to tell you, if you were watching the game, I think it was the third 3 of the half and the fourth 3 of the game. I mean, I never saw the bench explode like they did. When he hit that shot, it was like, I think Nick Nemekis got up and I thought he was going to drop his pants. It was like, that's how big that bench was. I'm dead serious. I kept watching every time Matt would score. I was watching the bench. The entire bench would get up. It was almost like I was like, explode. It was an explosion.
Yeah, well, our bench energy on the SJC Golden Eagles is certainly probably the best in the Skyline.
I think it's the best around because I cover other teams. I watch the CUNY, I watch the USCAA, and I think St. Joe's has got the edge.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you got some really great characters and really great guys on that bench. So it's like I said, it's a product of what this program is built, what they demand, what they know, which is, winning now. It's about winning. It's about bringing a winning culture, winning a winning environment, right? All these different things. And it's clearly showing, Tom. So I'm extremely proud. I can't wait to see the game on Tuesday against Manhattanville. That'll be right after we play now. My Plainview JFK Hawks will play our second-round playoff game on Tuesday at 3:30 at Hofstra University. So I'm very excited for that as well. So Tuesday is going to be a very big day. So certainly I will be sure to hopefully recap all of it on Tuesday night, and I cannot wait to see what happens. So thank you to all of the SJC Golden Eagles, the team, because I know you guys support us big time, and it is very important for us, and we are thankful for it, myself, Tom Bryce, and the entire Sportswire radio crew. So we can't thank you guys enough for supporting, and ultimately I can't wait to be back, and hopefully – after we take care of business in Manhattanville, hopefully I can get back to another game because I love to see my Golden Eagles once again this season in person.
Absolutely. I was talking about that with some of the guys and saying, listen, next season for sure. I mean, hopefully we get some normalcy for sure. And we can all make it out to a bunch of games. But again, it's going to be a very, very big Tuesday. I know for me, I'll be watching John Jay and SJC at the same time. So we'll see how I hold up with that. But obviously, again, very, very excited for our Golden Eagles and the entire program. And congratulations again to the entire staff, the team, the players. You've all supported us. We wanted to do this for you guys and how much you've meant to us. I know everybody supports us and listens to us. And again, guys like Ryan McNeely and Gordon. And so happy again for guys like Gordon, Kevin, and Matt, our seniors, our leaders, who now get to be a part of a winning environment, a winning program. And even guys like Nick Nemekis and Tom Bell and Mark Roberts Jr., your old teammate, and Godiello and Farafina, Ferry. He really is big as a Ferry. And just everybody on the team, Basia, Hoyt. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, just Alec Tabata, of course, we'll never not forget about Alec Tabata and just everybody on the team spans. So just congratulations, guys. Enjoy it. Looking forward to Tuesday's game. We know we're going to bring it home. 3 more wins is going to be coming up here. So can't wait. Guys, thank you for all of your support. We'll definitely be back here, I'm sure, Tuesday. Also, good luck to our Plainview Hawks varsity team. We know they're going to do very well playing at Hofstra, so that'll be a lot of fun. We'll definitely talk about that as well. And, of course, you can follow the Brute Force again on Instagram at BWeiss20, Twitter, BradWeiss20. Myself, I'm at the Sports Report 2021 on Instagram, Twitter, Thomas Price 2017. Also, Sportswire Radio. Do give us a like on Facebook and at sportnarium.com/player. You can listen to all of our content. Everybody, good night. We'll be back with you Tuesday, and thank you for listening. Okay, so